Hey, good afternoon. My name is Mark, and I've got a program called Dissolving Fear. And I've been taking the last, I don't know, 37 days and broadcasting on my Facebook channel. But I'm going to try this YouTube experience to see what happens. What does it mean to dissolve? Dissolve is one of those words that I love because what it basically says is we've got an ingredient, right? We've got an ingredient and it needs to be broken down. It needs to be penetrated. It needs to be liquidated. It needs to be reduced and separated. And one of the problems that I see in many of the spiritual realms that I live in um, is that we carry a lot of resentment. So we need to break down resentments. Now, think about it. We can have a resentment towards a parent. We can have a resentment towards children. We can have a resentment towards our boss. We can have a resentment towards the culture. We can have a resentment toward our fifth grade teacher. We can have a resentment toward our former girlfriend or boyfriend. We can have resentments about our partners. We can have resentments about our good friends. We can have resentments about the weather. We can have resentments about COVID-19. We could have resentments about the work that we choose and that we daily interact with. Resentments are poison. And while we don't necessarily talk so much about resentments, I like a book that was written by C.S. Lewis called The Great Divorce. Now, The Great Divorce isn't about divorce. The Great Divorce is about separating ourselves from the resentments that we feel towards one another. Because C.S. Lewis actually does this great job of describing resentments that we hold for one another as a living hell. And when we can let go of those resentments, that is living heaven. Now, why would that be? Resentments really is just another form of fear. We're afraid to interact with people. We're afraid to confront people. We're afraid to talk about our feelings. We're afraid to say to people, hey, something's not right here. And you said something to me the other day, or you thought something the other day, or I felt that you said something the other day, and I'm building up a mad case about it, and I am going to go crazy, and I'm going to hate you, and I'm going to revile you, and I'm going to spend an awful lot of mind games around this incident or this person or this thing, and it's going to consume me, and it's going to consume me, and it's going to consume me. And what happens in a lot of us is that those resentments carry from one place to another. So if we have resentment about the neighbor's dog that poops in our lawn, you're going to carry that over into something else during that day, and it's going to come out, and it's going to be expressed, and it's going to be ugly, and it's going to be bad. So resentments, you can find all kinds of spiritual direction around this, because all the traditions really spend a lot of time talking about forgiving one another, right? Now, I'm a pastor in a Christian tradition. That's my preferred tradition, but I consider myself an interfaith person, and I discuss what happens in all the Abrahamic traditions. But I also enjoy the Eastern traditions because they have an awful lot of wisdom to share as well. And I don't think one really is above the other. In fact, I know some people have great resentments around my opinion because they think one is completely more dominant than the other. And let's face it, the world has fought for eons over which view of God is right, and we carry some resentments around that. It's the person that we're talking to doesn't believe that we do, right? So we carry an awful lot of baggage, and think of what a river does with all of its silt, right? If you consider that we're rivers of ideas and rivers of feelings and rivers of emotions, and we just let all those things just accumulate at the bottom of our delta, do you think a ship is going to be able to get up that river and really cohabitate with us? Not a chance. So there's got to be a flood. And we have to dissolve this concept of resentment in our lives, because if we don't, what are we left with? We're left with anger. We're left with being mad. We're left with being unkind. We're left with being scornful. We're left with being bitter. We're left with all of these negative attributes of holding on to resentments. Now, what's the way that we get rid of these resentments? Let's come up with a solution. So that's the problem, right? The problem is that we carry resentments no matter what. But I don't care how lily white you think you are. I don't care if you do meditation all day long and that you have a great prayer life. We still carry resentments, and the only way that you're as an individual are able to dispel and dissolve resentments is by addressing them. Now, I'm also familiar with a lot of tools that are found in the recovery rooms, the 12-step recovery rooms, and they make it pretty clear that resentment is the number one killer. It will kill us. It will kill the people around us if we hold on to resentments. Because you know what happens? If we get mad at one another, we don't have a way of articulating or expressing or breaking it down or dissolving that resentment, what do? We find a way to dissolve it in a cheap and fast way, i.e., we drink, we drug, we do all kinds of things in order to avoid feeling those resentments. Sometimes we drink, sometimes we abuse to elevate certain feelings, and sometimes we do all those things to make those feelings go away. But inevitably, we make them worse. So what do? We speak to that person, or we address that circumstance, or that entity, or that reality in our life, and we name it. We name it. We say, hey, I'm holding some energy around this thing that happened, and I don't know what to do with it, but I need to talk about it. And I'm going to talk to a friend. I'm going to talk to a pastor. I'm going to talk to a therapist. I can do all those things. But the best way of doing it is actually addressing it to that circumstance, whatever it may be. And most of us, it ends up being an individual. It ends up being a person, right? A person that has hurt us somehow, or we have felt angry at, or that has offended us, or that we feel in some way has violated us. And the best way of doing that is by addressing that person. Now, we don't always like to do that too, because we have a lot of fear around addressing a wound. We have a fear around being vulnerable, and sometimes we have a resentment around being vulnerable. We don't want to have to do that. We don't have to be so gratuitous with our feelings. So, though, in many instances, really the way to do it is to really speak with that person in a loving and thoughtful and kind and gracious and spiritual way. And to sit that person down and say, look, I felt offended at the comment you made the other day. And I am holding a resentment about that. And generally speaking, some people don't even know that it's ever even happened. But it really takes a lot of courage and a lot of faith and a lot of strength to actually confront somebody with those feelings. And really, it's a faithful step in the right direction. And when you think about it, we can address our resentments day in and day out with just a simple, "Hey, can I talk to you about something? I felt hurt. That you said that to me the other day, and I want to explain to you why." Ooh, that's it. It doesn't have to be some long, drawn out, diatribe and essay on anything. It could just be that sort of a confessional opportunity to share and to what I like to call reveal, which means pulling back the layers. It means dissolving the layers, breaking down the walls around those feelings of hurt, those feelings of pain, those feelings of being rejected, perhaps, or offended. It's pretty simple. We don't do it very well. But, in this day and age of COVID-19 and all the people that we're surrounded by, or at least we're trying to help and to come clean with, it's a really great way of unpacking the things that really bog us down. So good luck with that. If you want to reach out to me, I don't even know how to do that through YouTube, but look me up. My name is Mark Heilshorn. You can find me on Facebook, and I do a FaceTime every night at 7 p.m., which I call Dissolving Fear, and it's under the heading really of reclaiming your spirit, reclaiming the spirit. Thanks very much. Have a beautiful day.